Do you hear that? That isn't a ghost scream. 240 million years ago, long before dinosaurs ruled the Earth, a predator emerged that turned ancient coastlines into hunting grounds of fear. Its name was Nothosaurus. At first glance, it looked like a creature assembled from different animals. It had the body of a reptile, a long flexible neck, and jaws packed with sharp, needle-like teeth. But its appearance was only part of the story. Nothosaurus was one of the earliest marine predators to successfully bridge two worlds, land and sea. The world it inhabited was recovering from the greatest mass extinction in Earth's history. Volcanoes had devastated ecosystems, food chains had collapsed, and countless species had vanished. Survival itself had become a daily challenge. The ancestors of Nothosaurus were small reptiles living on land. As resources became scarce, some began venturing toward the coastline. What started as a desperate search for food eventually became one of evolution's most remarkable transitions. Over time, these reptiles adapted to life in the water. Scientists studying Nothosaurus fossils discovered something unusual. Its ribs and vertebrae were exceptionally dense and heavy. At first glance, this seems like a disadvantage for an aquatic animal, but in reality, it was one of its greatest weapons. Unlike many marine creatures that rely on buoyancy, Nothosaurus benefited from sinking. Its heavy skeleton acted like a built-in diving weight, allowing it to descend quietly toward the seafloor with minimal effort. Instead of swimming constantly, it could settle into the mud and wait. Imagine the shallow seas of the Triassic period. Schools of fish drift through clear water while sunlight filters down from above. Everything appears calm. But hidden in the sediment below is a predator that hasn't moved for hours. Nothosaurus could remain almost motionless, conserving energy while watching the waters overhead. Then, when prey entered range, the attack happened instantly. Its long neck shot forward like a compressed spring. Its jaws snapped shut around the target, and the hunt was often over before nearby animals even realized what had happened. This ambush strategy made Nothosaurus one of the most effective predators in its environment. Its teeth were designed for gripping slippery prey rather than chewing. Fish, squid-like animals, and smaller marine reptiles could be trapped inside its jaws and swallowed whole. Fossil evidence suggests it wasn't particularly selective about what it ate. In some fossil sites, researchers have found remains of smaller marine reptiles associated with larger individuals, hinting that competition in these ancient waters could be ruthless. Yet despite its reputation as a formidable hunter, Nothosaurus was far from invincible. One of the biggest misconceptions about prehistoric life is that the largest predator always sits safely at the top of the food chain. Ancient oceans were far more complicated. Beyond the shallow coastal waters lurked even larger hunters. Early ichthyosaurs were rapidly evolving into powerful marine predators. Some species grew far larger than Nothosaurus and were perfectly adapted for life in deeper water. For these giants, an adult Nothosaurus could become prey rather than predator. This constant pressure shaped its behavior. The same shallow waters that provided food also protected it from larger predators roaming the open sea. Venture too far offshore, and the hunter could quickly become the hunted. This helps explain why Nothosaurus remained closely tied to coastlines. The shallows offered both hunting opportunities and protection. Open water promised more resources, but also far greater danger. In a way, Nothosaurus lived between two worlds. It hunted in the sea, yet still relied on land. It was no longer fully terrestrial, but it had not completely abandoned its ancestral lifestyle either. And that transitional existence became the foundation for something even greater. As millions of years passed, evolutionary pressure continued shaping its descendants. Some lineages became increasingly specialized for life in the ocean. Their limbs transformed into powerful paddles, their bodies became more streamlined, their dependence on land gradually faded. Evolution rarely moves in a straight line. Some lineages vanished, while others adapted and flourished. Nothosaurus existed during this transitional chapter, standing between ancient land reptiles and the fully marine giants that would later dominate prehistoric oceans. Eventually, these descendants evolved into one of the most famous groups of marine reptiles in history, the Plesiosaurs. The long-necked rulers of Jurassic oceans, the animals that would later inspire countless sea monster legends, traced part of their ancestry back to creatures remarkably similar to Nothosaurus. What began as a struggling shoreline reptile eventually helped create an entire dynasty of ocean predators. That may be the most fascinating part of this story. Nothosaurus is often remembered for its unusual appearance and intimidating teeth, but its true importance lies elsewhere. It represents a moment when life adapted to catastrophe, a time when survival demanded experimentation, risk, and transformation. The world changed, and Nothosaurus changed with it. Because it adapted when others could not, its descendants would dominate the oceans for more than 100 million years. Not every pioneer becomes a king. Sometimes the pioneer simply opens the road for those who come after. And few creatures in Earth's history opened a road as important as Nothosaurus.